Whoa! Zach!
What?
That episode we were doing last time.
What about it?
We're not done!
We're not done?
Oh my god!
That was a nightmare!
There's so much more in 1996 we have to talk about!
Oh my god, it was a living nightmare!
Hello, Internet!
Hi!
I'm HamsterBomb.
And I don't know who I am.
Mario?
No, that's Mario.
Wake up, Mario!
Oh,
we have to talk about video games!
Oh.
Zach, that was you. That was your name.
Right.
Guy from Canada, I remember. There's nobody else in Canada named Zach. Okay,
no, absolutely not.
Now that we've gotten that established.
Facts.
Yes. This is the part 2, if you have not heard the first part of going through all of the, it feels like all the games ever, of 1996. Really just the really big heavy hitters that we wanted to talk about for that episode of HITBOX, where we just talk about whatever we darn well please in the world of video gaming. Thank you very much. Part 2 commences now.
So going from arcades to something that sounds vaguely familiar to a game we just talked about earlier.
I'm so frustrated right now.
Oh, do you need help?
I can do it!
Let me see.
No, I can do it! Don't take this from me, I've done it before, I can do it.
We're talking about Resident Evil.
Okay, Resident Evil. No! Don't go!
Don't go! Stop it! Don't open that door!
Okay. Resident Evil,
oh my
we're
God.
making fun of it, but it had live action cutscenes in the actual game itself. And this is just PlayStation 1, guys. And of course, 1996. This is really impressive.
Yeah.
The game is technically a Metroidvania as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's the first game, or one of the first games that was... Who needs getting over it with Bennett Foddy when you've got this star?
The one hill with HamsterBomb.
This is the rest of the game, guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, right up there. Princess Peach is in that block, and if you can get it, it's the end of the game.
It's the secret to actually beating the game quick. The one secret speedrunners don't want you to know about.
Yeah, exactly. You heard it here first.
Oh my god.
Resident Evil is a good game, I promise.
It is a really good game.
Am I gonna do it?
You got this, bud. I would. There you go. Oh my god.
Okay.
So, it is a survival horror game where you play as a group of special operatives sent into a mansion because a bunch of undead have been sighted inside.
But none of that matters.
No, none of that matters.
Zombies.
There's
and
zombies.
It's affecting the animals. You're actually stuck inside the mansion because there's zombie dogs outside. And, well, I guess we're stuck in here. And then eventually you find out there's this underground organization that started the whole thing, but bah, who cares about that? Giant spiders, giant crocodiles, and snakes, and zombies, and conserving your ammunition. Saving at save stations with ink in order to make sure that you're actually saving.
Which is a limited supply as well.
Yep.
Your saves are limited. Because you have only so many ink ribbons with which to type up your report each time. And the mansion is this big maze. Don't ask me how this poor people of Umbrella were supposed to get through this mansion to get to work. You know?
I know.
But that's not the point. The point is...
in other games later, it's like connected to literally everything, so who cares?
Yeah, whatever. That's not the point. The point is it's supposed to facilitate this searching action that you're going through.
Right.
Because you're supposed to... there's a bunch of locked doors, and the two characters you play as each have different ways to get through the mansion, and different characters and semi-different stories that they go through. Like with Jill, you actually get the lockpick, which Chris does not, so you can actually access certain rooms faster than, you can with Chris. Whereas Chris actually has access to I believe a smaller inventory, but he, but he actually gets to meet up with Rebecca Chambers, who actually can help you with your journey a lot easier. And again, it's all about ammo conservation. Zombies actually vary between how many bullets actually take them down, and sometimes they can get back up and just keep going after you.
Yep.
And you never know. That's why you take the knife and you just
stab them.
Stab every single corpse you see. Like, are you alive?
Yep,
Nope.
I don't trust it. You trust nothing.
No, don't trust anything.
Especially in a game that's going to limit your saves, you should already know it's going to start pulling a lot of unfair stuff.
Yeah, especially halfway through the game when they introduce the Hunter variant of the bioweapons.
Ugh.
Oh my god, I hated those things so much. They scared me as a kid because I'm like, oh my god, they just leaped and just decapitated me. I had no idea what to do.
I just remember, as a child, the introduction cutscene, not the silly, stupid one, but the little cutscene you got when you tried to open the door to leave. Even if you just, you're stuck in here like, oh, I'm scared of this place, I want to go. And you just get met with the zombie dogs gnarling at you, just trying to get at you because you tried to leave.
Yeah. And
Oh
I'm
my
glad that they
God.
kept that the whole game too.
Yeah, it's just the way that the game feels. And it feels scary, and that's good
Yes.
because like the actual live action stuff is hokey and terrible.
Plus the poor voice actors they got to dub all of that stuff. Probably sounds
yeah.
decent in Japanese, but
Maybe.
probably. But
knows?
the English version, yeah, it's like Z grade like voice
Yeah,
acting. It's so
atrocious.
good.
Yeah, it's so bad, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it warps around.
Which
to
is
being
very
good.
fitting for a horror game and of that era.
Yeah, and because of that, we get a lot of good games later on that explores a lot of those concepts and does their own thing, which I'm excited to talk about in
We
future
will
years.
talk about them when we get there. Anyway, what's the
maybe.
next game we're actually going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about Nights into Dreams.
Nights in the Dreams.
Yes.
Sega!
Sega. So, for those of you who weren't paying attention, it's a Sega game made for the Sega Saturn.
By
made
Sega.
Yeah, by Sega.
But the people who know everything about Sega, they do Sega, they're the Sonic team. Actually, I think it is the Sonic team.
Yeah, it was Sonic Team led by Yuji
I was
Naka.
joking, but yeah, it actually is
Yeah.
the Sonic team.
So, the whole point is, you're kind of going through sort of this weird... I don't know, how do you actually describe this game? Like a dream. It's literally
Yes, I mean,
a dream.
you're in a dream world, yes, but it's
Yeah.
very weird for the gameplay, too. I'm pretty sure it's technically like an on-rails shooter action game?
Kind of. You're not really shooting anything.
I know, but it's still, you're like an on-rails game, but
Yeah, it's an on-rails game where the whole point is you're trying to collect... it's like a collect-a-thon in speed mode. So like you're going from like left to right, up and down, wherever the game's taken you as the character knights, collecting all these gems in order to unlock the path forward. And you're like looping around things in order to try to collect items. It's a very zen kind of laid-back thing, but then you get to the nightmare bosses. And then, like, it really takes a turn into, like, a more action-y kind of game. Because you're locked into a circular, like, cylindrical arena where you're supposed to, like, somehow grab a hold of the enemies and throw them. And the music is really cool. This game is a lot about experience. It's not really so much focused on mechanics per se, but it's more about how you feel as you're playing it.
Yeah.
And this is the one game
It's
that
a really
I
cool
know.
idea for something back then, too.
Right, and this is the one game I think I remember reading that Shigeru Miyamoto said that he wished he had made, and how he appraised Yuji Naka and his team for the work they did on it. Unfortunately, if you want to play it, you have to have a Sega Saturn, who has a Sega Saturn, and an expensive copy of a Sega Saturn game. There's other ways, I won't say how,
I
but...
don't know. I don't know any of those
I don't know any other ways.
But anyway, we should move on.
We should move on. It's a good game. Give it a shot if you want. Tomb Raider!
Tomb Raider, that's a game.
That is definitely a game.
And it came out on the PlayStation Uno, or X. We like to call it the PlayStation X.
Yeah.
Because when it was coming out, it was called PSX. Whatever. It was a thing. It happened. So
yes. But
Tomb Raider.
Yeah, Tomb Raider.
It was kind of like Mario 64 in terms of that 3D platforming discovery. Now, obviously, it's coming out at the same time. But this is more figuring out how do we do an adventure game.
Right. Yeah. How do we do something like I don't know, like one of those search action-y kind of games from like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis style, you know? How do we do that in 3D? Well, you make a polygon woman, you brag
give
about
her enormous boobs.
You brag about how many triangles are composed of her bosom.
Yes.
And you make a really fun at first game.
With tank controls. And that's the thing, early ones were relying on tank controls.
Right.
And that's why Mario 64 still needed to be brought up here, because this is like abandoning those tank controls, and it's all in favor of you're really controlling that camera, and Mario's doing his own thing.
Right. Now, do we want to try to briefly explain tank controls for those who don't know?
Imagine you're driving a tank.
Yeah, basically.
That's largely it. You're always going and facing one direction.
Yep.
And if you wanted to turn,
yep.
up is just walk forward.
And left and right are steer.
And literally just steering.
That's it.
You're not like Mario can turn like this. You could never do that in an actual tank-controlled game.
Right.
Unless you were, really going crazy on that controller. But.
Exactly. But anyway, yeah, so that's how they decided to do it. And the first crypt you actually explore is really cool. It starts out in an ice cave because you're in the Himalayas, and as it goes further and further down, it gets warmer and it gets more like ancient world kind of in its flavor.
Yeah.
And it's very much more about seeking the way forward. It's not so much always about the action, even though there's a lot of enemies in there who will kill you. You just automatically lock on with your dual Desert Eagles and just take down everything.
Yeah. I was never really sure about how this came about, but I always thought in my headcanon that the Naughty Dog team making, at this point, Crash Bandicoot, which we will talk about. Maybe that's a great transition. We'll talk about Crash next.
Yeah.
But they're making Crash Bandicoot, and they, like, look over in my mind, see, whoa, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And then Uncharted is what we get out of it. Because in my mind, we'll talk about Uncharted when we get there.
Yes.
But it's almost like where that series and that concept will later become evolved into.
Yeah, and I think for Uncharted, that was the criticism a lot of people threw at it. It's like, oh, this is just Tomb Raider again. It's like, but it's totally not.
And nowadays, if you're just looking at the games as they are, why play Tomb Raider when Uncharted exists?
Right,
and
right.
It's a thing, it just happens. But
exactly.
But yeah, that's largely what Tomb Raider was when it came out. Just a proud, big polygon boobs.
Yeah, and
defining the adventure genre, that everything. Whatever.
Yeah, I would say play like the first tomb that you explore in the game,
and you've seen it.
Yeah, because it gets mean.
Yeah,
it gets really mean
and it's
later
already
on.
on top of the fact that the controls are just tough.
Yeah, it's really hard to go back to. Like, I tried it at one point, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's. I would almost say play the reboot games, but I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of those either. Run, Mario!
Love the little faces on them.
I know. They're like just spray painted on. That's so cute.
But anyway, Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot.
Now, Zach, I know you love Crash, so
I absolutely adore Crash.
I'm gonna let you have this one.
Thank you.
Oh no!
Oh, there you go.
Oh, it's an instant kill.
Yeah,
you
that's
can't even
quick.
fight your way out of it.
That's quicksand, yo.
Oh,
that's only
boy,
inside the pyramid where you can fight your way out.
And the worst part about this hidden world is that you have to fight your way to get into the pyramid, and then the pyramid's like its own other level.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool that they were able to get away with that. But
yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but it can be tedious after a point.
It certainly can, because right now I can't fly.
Nope, not yet. You haven't gotten enough.
This is the safe one. This is the safe one. This is the safe one. Ah! Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot. So, it went by a certain code name, which I don't know if I can get away with saying right now. But anyway, it involves Sonic
yeah.
and a butt. But
anyway, look it up.
Yeah, look it up. So, this was like a revolutionary game, not just because of the attitude, but also technologically. Because...
Am I safe?
Yes, you're safe.
Okay.
So the whole point of the game is that you're Crash Bandicoot, you're saving your girlfriend from Dr. Cortex by going through these obstacle course levels in 3D, which is what Mario avoided but Crash attempted to do by restricting your 3D movement to a tunnel.
Right.
The thing that I love that they did, there you go.
That was lucky.
Yeah. I'm just like, whoa, it's like
Speed run.
Speed run 101. But the thing that I really loved about it was the way, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not very up on my technical terms, but the use of culling in and recalling geometry and objects.
Yeah, and we later would call something like that like LOD, like what we were talking about earlier with Mario. When he's farther out, we switch out the polys. So since Crash is constantly running forward, the level is so big.
Yes.
You can't load the whole thing at the same time. So
No.
they had to make sure that they had to compromise somewhere. So they're like, okay, well, hold on. After you run past something, why do we keep loading that?
Right.
Get rid of that. And then just load in the next chunk. And just load chunk by chunk to allow them to keep going.
It's streaming. They were streaming in data because the RAM could not hold in a single level.
Exactly.
So they were actually, the disk would actually be sped up, and it would actually seek out the partitions where this level is and load it in as you're going through, which is really cool. And also the fact, too, on its core, Crash Bandicoot 1 is a fun game.
Became the icon of the PlayStation.
An icon, not the official one. Nothing ever became the official icon.
Officially,
yeah.
No. But if you would ask anybody in the era, they all would have told you Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, yeah.
Some might have said Spyro.
Yeah,
but that really was the go-to between that they were never settling on.
Right.
I feel like if they did settle on something, because like the N64 was obviously Mario.
Yeah, that was Nintendo's boy,
Yeah, even though there's outstanding other things on the N64. Like, I don't think of the PlayStation and think of Crash first. I think of Metal Gear. You know, I think of there's so many other great games that are on the PlayStation.
Exactly.
Like Symphony of the Night. But you wouldn't think of the PlayStation of Castlevania. That's a sprite-based game. But that's what they were, that's the mentality at the time, you know?
Yep, that's what they did. Any closing thoughts on Crash Bandicoot? Because it's a really fun game, but it's hard to go back to because
at least you
it's
can
difficult.
play the remastered Toys for Bob games, they are still a treat. It's
the
not
Insane Trilogy.
yeah, it's not like the games themselves are not worth playing or anything, or if they've aged out of being fun. Clearly, like I was picking on Mario 64 and I had some joke bad segments of it, but it's still a really, really outstanding game, and I actually really love the Nintendo DS version, even though there's a lot of problems with that one.
Yeah. But I was going to say...
love that it adds more to this, but I don't want to keep going back for this. We've obviously talked about... That was so close!
For Crash Bandicoot, what I was going to say was... It gets super ridiculously difficult towards the end that I just always cheated in order to be able to get to the last levels just to experience them. Yeah,
it gets so hard.
And the fact that you can't die in order to get the gems because you have to break the boxes in one go without dying. It's like, no, you can't do that to me. Yeah, don't do that to me. But still, it's a fun game, and it really cemented Naughty Dog as a powerhouse, or it laid the groundwork for them to become a powerhouse developer later on.
Yes.
So we got that out of it. But moving on from Crash Bandicoot and going back a little bit to the N64, how about that Wave Race?
Wave Race! Yeah,
Wave Race
N64.
64.
You'd think we'd be talking about more 64 games, but...
There wasn't that many at launch.
No, there really wasn't. It's almost like this was the one that they were waiting to get that polish on. And then after this, we were like, well...
There was such a drought, and that was the thing with the N64 too. Like, it sold like gangbusters at first, but then since there wasn't that many games, at least as much as Nintendo was hoping to, because third-party support died, it was just hard for them to really just keep up with demand, so that's the problem. But still, Wave Race 64 was not a launch title, it was meant to be, but we did get it later on in the year after we got it. And boy, oh boy, is that actually a really fun racing game.
Yeah, it is. It's like the big thing that you would think that you have to get working correctly on N64 games versus Super Nintendo is physics. Because now you're dealing with three-dimensional objects, and you have to make sure that they're actually going to function as three-dimensional objects do. So how do you do that? You have to figure out how... Probably the hardest thing of that is water.
Yeah.
And jumping right into that right when the Super Nintendo is, like, just still being used, and you could have made a Super Nintendo water racing game. There were plenty.
Yeah.
But to do it on the N64 so early, and to make it work well...
That was gutsy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm really surprised that it actually worked, and this game isn't known for being a complete flop.
So for those of you So for those of you unaware, Wave Race was a small little franchise Nintendo had early-ish on. Which was basically a Sea-Doo water racing game. And like,
we should have mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, we said racing game, but still.
Yeah, look at that cover. That sure looks like what we were just talking about.
He's raising his hand in victory. It felt like you actually were really racing on the water. It felt really good. Like you actually went under and came up.
You splash all the time. It looks so cool.
And as you're racing, you're
recently added to N64 Online.
Yes. Because the whole point is you're supposed to weave and bob between these buoys. You have to go to the left or right of them as indicated by the color and the letter on them in order to maintain not only your speed, but, you know, potentially your position in the race. Because if you keep missing, you lose speed and the other racers get ahead of you, which is... can be annoying, especially in later courses. But that's the point of the racing game. You're supposed to get better and better at the courses as you play them.
But no, let's just do this.
And it's really fun too. Like eventually you can unlock a dolphin as your ride, and you can actually just outpace everybody because that's what a dolphin does. It's made to be in the water and run around and swim around. Really fun game. If you have the N64 on your Switch, play it. What do you have to lose? It's really fun.
It's so short anyway. Yeah, it's just like, give it a try. It's just like amazing that the physics function so well. Yeah,
and the fact that they actually trick you, like it feels like they programmed the whole ocean when really it's only like maybe 2 meters away from you as far as they got. Because, you know, they really were able to sell that illusion that you were in the ocean. And I think that's really
you really have to focus on when you're trying to make a game like that.
Exactly.
Make it feel like it really is going on forever, and it's just trying to find like creative shortcuts to make your game still function.
Right. And again,
that's a lot of what early game design is in general. Like we mentioned before, physics is just not a phrase you will hear someone ever say when they're designing for the NES.
No.
There is no physics.
No, because you have to just program
there is math.
Everything. Yeah, exactly. But now
that's
we've
the
got
platform I mean.
3 third-party kits for that, like the Havoc engine and all that stuff now. But
Or a certain Quake engine.
or a certain Quake engine. That's right.
I'm just saying.
play that Quake. It's really good.
Yeah.
But sticking to, now going back to the PlayStation and going back to RPGs, I swear I don't make half of this list. And you actually put this one in. I didn't
did.
think about
This was me. Okay, I will be fully responsible for that one. I said, Zach, we really should talk about this.
Yep, and what game is that, Alex?
Revelations Persona.
That's right.
Now, we talked about Shin Megami Tensei, but I think that this is really important because this is, well, obviously, the start of where... I think we also mentioned Shin Megami Tensei If, which...
Yes.
That was really, like, technically the start of Persona, but this one is the first Persona. This is considered Persona 1.
Yes, exactly. And why it's called Revelations in the States? Naming conventions. Atlas wanted to try to sell it in the States, and Revelations sounded cool, whereas people are going to, where they were afraid people were going to go,
Bible.
What the
Jesus.
What the gosh darn hecky is a Shin Megami Tensei?
Right, well, Goddess of the Light or something. I forget what it actually stands for.
New Rebirth of the Goddess.
Rebirth of the Goddess, yeah. But I don't know why they didn't just call it that. I wouldn't have had a problem with that.
I don't know.
Whatever.
The 90s was a different time.
Yeah, it's almost like sometimes why did they change the name of Star Fox when it brought it over to Europe?
Because there was already a game called Star Fox in Europe.
And it was like Battle... I forget what it was.
It was Lilat Wars.
Lilat Wars, yeah. And then if you're going to do that, if there's a problem with the name and you're already doing that, what... I don't know. It's like come up with a completely different name. Mario is unamused as well. Like, why?
Oh, mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Why? But so Revelations Persona. So this kind of diverts quite a bit from the way that Shin Megami Tensei works, in the fact that you're not like going... you're not fighting demons or angels technically. Yeah, you're actually... The things that you can recruit are the personas, which have been rebranded to represent different aspects of the self.
Right, of a character's personality, which can then grow or change based on how you interact with other people or how other people see you.
Exactly.
And you can strengthen those personas, likewise, with the same sort of attitude.
Right, now, in this one, it's still in a first-person dungeon crawler like the mainline series.
Right.
But the thing I kind of like about it... This is just a personal preference thing, but I love the chunky, blocky renders that they put as part of the dungeon crawler aspects.
Yeah.
Whereas in the story segments, it's all from like an isometric perspective in a 2D perspective. And it's, I don't know, the story is really cool. They use a lot of psychology, and they use an awful lot of, like, really heavy themes in this one.
Yeah.
Unlike what later Persona games would go into, I feel.
Mostly.
It doesn't focus as heavily on them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, they're still dark, if that's not what... don't interpret it as dark. It just means, like, theming.
Yeah. I mean, it's like...
the demons and the personas are really still all based on all sorts of ridiculous... It's the Shin Megami Tensei monsters.
It really is. I mean, that's one thing I've come to find out, and that a lot of people have kind of noted. They made all the demons in SMT1, and they're like, oh, cool, that's our work done. We'll just copy and paste for all eternity. That's not to say there haven't been new demons.
There's been new ones constantly.
But the thing is, not everyone can recruit a persona, I think, in the first Persona,
I do not remember.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I touched this one, too. But, you know, it just takes what's there and just puts it in a high school setting. You're all a bunch of high schoolers going through your lives, and everything is upended, and you've got to figure out why. We are not to the point yet of, like, anime, you know, stealing your hearts in your mind fortress and all that stuff yet.
Yeah.
We're like...
It's going to gain its style that you know it for later. Right now, this is really just the concept of, you know, school students building their relationships with each other, and that's what powers up their RPG half of the game, controlling demons.
Exactly.
To try... So that's the Persona that you know.
Right.
And this is where it begins.
Exactly. Gonna be sticking to the PlayStation now. We're gonna be talking about another top-down action adventure game.
Yes.
Which really surprises me because of the era that we're in. Everyone wanted the 3D game, but here comes this game, and it's really cool. This is the start of the Legacy of Kain series, Blood Omen.
Finally caught the stupid rabbit.
Oh, yeah, you did. did, you did. Oh, poor Mips.
I know.
He just wants to live in the basement. Leave him be.
Just had to bother the darn thing.
I know. So, you... Oh gosh, how best to describe... Have you ever played any of the Legacy of Kain games?
No, I literally just took your word for it, like, alright, let's do this. I'm gonna be playing Mario 64 anyway, so I'm good.
It's like, I got what I need.
Yeah.
You're just talking about whatever the heck you darn you
30.
want.
I forget upstairs. Upstairs is more than that, though.
I think so. But anyway, you can't get up there,
Right,
unfortunately.
yeah, I forgot how to...
So, this is made by Silicon Knights, who would eventually go on to make a game I wish they would bring back. Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. In this, it is a
There's the boo.
Yep, in this top-down action-adventure game, you play as Kain, a nobleman of the land of Nosgoth who has been killed and brought back by a necromancer for his own nefarious purposes. But in order to do that, you have to become a vampire and just reject your humanity. And so you're going through the land of Nosgoth trying to find the people who, did you wrong. But then you're like, well, after that, this is cool. I'm an immortal vampire. You have the ability to change the fate of Nosgoth, to save it or make it your own. And it's that role-playing aspect that kind of comes into play in it, where it's like, okay, do I want to be a complete monster and just kill everybody and just suck their blood? Because as soon as you go into town, everyone's going to be like, oh my god, it's a vampire, kill it. Or are you going to be the sneaky guy and be like, oh yeah, I'm just in disguise. I'm your normal, everyday, average person. Don't pay no mind to me. And there's like a whole overworld map to explore. You get new weapons. You're fighting all sorts of monsters that are in your way that plague the world of Nosgoth. It's very dark. It's very gothic. Amy Hennig, I think, worked on this game. The woman who would go on to write the Uncharted games and The Last of Us. Oh, not The Last of Us, the Uncharted games.
Yeah, that's Neil Druckmann.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann, that's right, my bad. And it's I want to say fantastic on a conceptual and from a gameplay level.
Yeah.
Technically...
We're still in 96. I mean,
yeah,
you gotta...
it's very rough because there's loading screens between each and every screen you go to, and we're only dealing with like a one spin or 2-time spin disc access
We're
system.
in the room. This gave so many kids nightmares.
Oh yeah. Why?
Well, I don't know why. What do you think? Maybe you should sit
Oh
on
god,
the...
no! Oh no! Oh my god! Jump scare, oh my god! Oh my heart! You can't do this to
No,
me!
seriously, like, we're joking, but that was terrifying.
No, yeah, seriously. Well, you didn't know as a kid. It's just an innocuous
Yeah, it's like, oh look, there's a
piano.
There's a piano!
Can I interact with it?
No, there's teeth in it, and it's trying to eat you.
Oh, as a quick aside, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the movie House from the 70s from Japan. Have you
know
ever
what
seen
that reminds me? It reminds me of, we need to make an episode about the scariest things in games that really shouldn't have been scary, like that eel guy, but no, I have not seen that film.
It is a mind trip. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, this episode is way too huge.
Yes. So anyway, but yeah, I would say, especially if you're really into like grand gothic epics, especially in the later games like the Soul Reaver games and Defiance, you should really pick it up because the other big thing I love about it too is the presentation and the voice acting. Oh my god, they literally got professional level voice actors to voice all the most of the characters in this game and future
very
ones.
uncommon.
And the FMVs are really, really cool. Like at the beginning, like there's a part in it to where it's like this unseen hand is tearing apart this dude, and it's just like you watch as this guy's falling over and he explodes into giblets and a skeleton. I'm like, oh my god, it's like, this ain't your average everyday video game, son. Sit down and play. And, again, that was part of the 90s thing. Go over the top, just go so far that it's ridiculous. And that's, that's what helps sell it. And it's a fun game, all things considered. If you can find a way to play it, please do. But
there they are.
For the last one, though, this is one that you had to correct me on because I was going by my stupid American sensibilities and thinking, oh yeah, this came out 2 years later. Wrong!
No.
This started...
Well, technically.
Technically.
Okay. And this is why I'm thinking, like, yeah, we're going to have way too much to talk about in this one because we're ending on one of the biggest games of the year.
Yes.
No! Does that reset everything?
No, he's still going to be there. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, I was going to say.
Oh, I was going to cry for you. But anyway, no, we are talking about Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue.
And Blue, yes. So,
yep, Gen 1.
Originally, Pokemon Gen 1 in Japan, yes, came out as Pokemon Red and Green. And it came out in 96. Now, in the West, we wouldn't see this until 98, but the reason why is because Red and Green is not the games that you know them as Gen 1.
Right.
There was a lot of work that they still had to do to get those games to run well. They changed all the sprites up, and they re-released the game later in the year, still 96, as Pokemon Blue.
Yep.
From my understanding, I believe it was still in that year of Pokemon 96. But anyway, so they got then Pokemon Blue, and then when it was later going to be translated and brought to the West, which obviously took some time, we basically got 2 versions of Pokemon Blue.
Yes.
And they gave us Pokemon Blue and Red. Weirdly, out of a bit of a odd racist bit of history, Japan thought that America would not buy a game that didn't have a color that was not in its national flag. I'm not kidding, that's why we did not get red and green as the colors. We got red and blue.
I mean, it wouldn't have minded me. I'm Canadian.
Yeah, whatever. It means nothing. Anyway, here's Ella's real.
Ella's real.
Ella's real. So, so getting here, Pokemon, enormous deal. Now, if we're talking about one game that defined the year, okay, in the West, we're really talking about 96. I'm sorry, 98. But oh my gosh, Pokemon was everywhere.
Yeah, you want to talk about a game that started a trend that's lasted to this day?
Yeah, you could not avoid Pokemon. Like, imagine if you're in the younger generation, you know when Pokemon Go came out, how enormous that was. You were hearing about Pokemon in different outlets that you never heard about Pokemon before.
Yeah.
They never talked about Pokemon on the radio or you know, in back in our day in 98, I was thinking in first grade, they're talking about a video game in the newspaper.
Yeah, I know.
That was weird.
Oh, it felt weird. I didn't know what to think. But then again, I'm just like, well, crap, that reminds me, I gotta play Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. So, aside from the game itself being like a sensation and creating things for the future, the actual fundamentals of what the game was actually really brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to make like this... Can you imagine a world where the Game Boy is not selling well? Because this is the world we're talking about. The Game Boy is not selling well.
Well, it's been out since 89.
Yeah.
And by 96, it was like everyone's tired of it or had a Game Boy.
Yeah, and it was basically Tetris. And they were trying to figure out how do we make this thing interesting. And the idea was we need to have more, like a reason for multiple people to play the same game and be able to... like they had the idea of like, okay, we'll just like have like tradable monsters, battling monsters, and you can have them all battle and trade with each other and interact in this way. And that's why, if you actually heard, the original Pokemon series was supposed to have like 16,000 or so versions, so that everyone's game was unique. And I still wish they would go back and do this. They could randomize anyone's Pokemon game. They choose not to because they know they sell 2 games and they make more money. But they sold multiple versions of the game originally because you had to have some reason to play the system with other people. It was about playing with everyone else. It was not about a single player game that you could just do.
Right, exactly. Now, and that was the thing too, because it's like it built, like you said, a community. Especially when I was a kid, it's like, and everyone had their Game Boys sticking out of their like giant jeans and all that. And the game, and that was the genius part where, like you said, they had the 2 versions, where some Pokemon were only available in one version that you had to trade for.
You had to choose, even if you knew which ones were in which. Like, do you want Electabuzz or do you want Magmar? You have to make picks.
Right, exactly.
Do you want Nidoking or Nidoqueen? That one you can actually get in both games, but one's rarer than the other one.
Yep,
so
exactly.
there's so many things that they did just to make the games different, and then the actual fundamentals of how the game plays, I still think is really brilliant. So there's a lot to it where like it starts off designed very straightforward. You basically are taught in a brutal boss that I really love how the original Brock is there to punish you for not knowing
your types,
how types function. And if you chose the water starter, hey, you're set, you can destroy him, but only because you had water, and you're gonna run into trouble later when the next gym is water, and you can't do very much against her. And you'll have to learn early on, no matter what you've picked, how to get around and learn the typing system and figure out how all the Pokemon are different and why you should be catching and playing with all of them and not just picking the one or sticking with a couple that you like.
Yeah, the ones that look coolest to you,
Right, and my favorite part about this that Pokemon games still are not doing, well, kind of, Scarlet Violet may be doing this, they, after a certain point, like the second or third gym, you could effectively go anywhere.
Yeah,
You
right.
could choose, screw the gyms, I'm gonna go all the way to Fuchsia, and I want to get, like, I want to go to the Safari Zone. I want to complete all the Pokedex. I don't care about beating all the badges. It's got nothing to do with what I'm playing.
Right. You could just immediately go up to Poison Master Koga, go after him.
You could beat the gyms in almost any order after a certain point in the game. Now, you have to beat the last one last. They will not let you in unless you have all of them. It's just locked until that point, which is probably for the best, because you actually run into that one in Viridian City, the second town in the game. Imagine if that door was open, how many people would have been like, yeah, no, these Pokemon are in the 40s and 50s, and my Pokemon is level 3, and I just learned Tackle.
I learned Tackle and Screech.
Yeah,
That's
right.
all I got.
Yeah, good luck with Screech. Screech actually lowers defense by 2. It probably would have been Leer. You're dreaming, buddy.
Oh my god.
Even that was a big deal. Like, the moves were so much more limited. I feel like the game was actually more balanced nowadays, even though, like, the Psychic type at that point was kind of busted.
Yeah, there really wasn't anything to combat against it, right?
And not really. Well, they were weak to Bug, and only Bug, because Dark didn't exist yet, and there was really no strong Bug. You had Scyther, but he didn't have really strong Bug moves.
Had Beedrill, but
Beedrill was really the only check.
Yeah.
And Pinsir, but Pinsir, once again, no real strong Bug moves.
No.
It wasn't until Gen 2 they tried to correct it with Heracross, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, the fact that the entire game was just so huge, and I want to point out, at this point, Game Freak had developed. You know their first game they made?
Let's see, it was a Genesis game, wasn't it?
No, not that I know. The one that I have heard about is an NES game, Yoshi. It is a puzzle game.
Oh, yeah!
That's Game Freak. And Game Freak trying to move from what they had known of what they developed into trying to create Pokemon, this very unique, different game, nothing like this has come before, get it all to function. They were having a lot of trouble. And one person saved them and basically came in and fixed all their code for them. And it is so sad that we do not have this person around today anymore. But Satoru Iwata basically made Pokemon what it was.
Yep, the man was a coding genius from what I understood.
Yes, he was brilliant. And a marketing genius.
Yeah, for real.
We lost so much when we lost Satoru Iwata.
Yeah, cancer's a heck of a thing.
Yeah, anyway, we probably have an entire episode just about him, but you know what? We already spent probably 2 whole episodes just talking about a single year in gaming.
That's how crazy it's getting
I know,
and going to get.
And this was a crazy year.
Yes.
I mean, like, the Game Boy got probably its biggest game. The N64 exists and got one of its biggest games.
And the PlayStation and Saturn are well on their way to becoming, you know, getting great libraries.
Going crazy. Yeah, the PlayStation's nuts. There's so much happening in this year, and gaming is just going to start getting bigger and bigger, and these episodes might actually get longer and longer. At this point, Zach.
Yes.
What's the most influential game of the year for you?
Let's see. The most influential. Well, if I bother to remember what I wrote.
I can see what you wrote, actually.
Yes.
I knew the answer to my question, yet I asked you anyway, politely.
I appreciate that. Some people just assume.
Yeah.
Now,
he totally wanted to play Dead or Alive. That's the best.
Yeah, best game of the year. 10 out of 10.
Dead or Alive,
again.
then boob jiggle physics. Gaming would never be the same again if it were not for Dead or Alive. Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, what really was it?
The waifu market would not be what it is without that game.
I keep falling.
Oh, God.
Give me the
thinking about them waifus.
Yeah, just thinking about them.
Quake. Quake is the most influential game of the year for me.
Okay.
Just because not only it's a really good game and helped really to cement it further as a PC juggernaut, but also because of the engine they made.
Quite literally of its engine, yeah.
That's really the only reason I got.
Yeah.
No other reason I need to give.
Yeah, I mean, he's not here to appease you.
No. That's like, you play Quake.
Yeah, play Quake.
No, honestly, they just did the remake not too long ago for PC, Switch, all the other consoles. It is such a good game, and the console controls are actually pretty good from what I've tried. So yeah, give it a go. What about you? What would be your most influential?
The influential of the year, honestly, I think I'm playing it. Because for the same sort of reasons we're talking about Quake, now we're saying, okay, this game was basically the foundation of almost all 3D platformers that would come after this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, not just 3D platformers, but 3D action games
even
in
just
general.
3D in general. Like, Ocarina of Time doesn't happen if this doesn't happen.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we would not
Even
have...
Ocarina of Time, I think, is using the base camera system.
Yeah, I think it's actually built on this engine.
I think it is.
Yeah. So we
that
literally
doesn't even
would not
happen in Ocarina
have...
of Time. We'll get there when we get there, obviously. But, like, the fact that we have to keep saying, like, all these other games that are gonna happen because this happened shows how important this year was and how influential it was. It's incredible.
Exactly.
But still, influential is one thing, and that's always hindsight bias. What's actually your favorite game to play that came out this year?
Go back to these, because see, it's...
There's so many
I
here.
know,
There's so good. I mean, like, you're looking at so many of your favorites here. That, like,
No, I know.
I mean, Quake is one. Super Mario.
Yeah.
And then our Mario RPG, Star Ocean, and just Metal Slug.
Can I just say the year 1996 and have done with it?
1996. No, you are Jeff Keighley, and you're about to disappoint hundreds of thousands of people by saying your favorite video game that came out this year.
Okay. Well, because see, for me, it was a three-way tie between the original Metal Slug, The House of the Dead, and Super Mario 64.
You're really gonna do this?
Well, no, hold
no
on.
ties.
No, hold on. I had to debate for a long while.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my god, I love them all for different reasons.
What am I supposed to be doing here?
But if I wanted to actually go back and play something and get lost in a game, I would definitely go back to Super Mario 64.
Yeah, as you did. We saw at the very beginning of this, what did you have, 80 stars?
I had 80 out of the 120 just because it was launch day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play this game again and get as many stars as I can in one go. That was what I went for.
One go?
Basically.
You did that in one sitting?
Two. We'll say two.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, see that.
I really love this game too. I mean, how far?
Yeah.
I already got 20 stars in this, and I'm really just farting around in the game trying to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I love House of the Dead and Metal Slug for the spectacle and for the thrill rides that they are. But if I wanted to go...
still, yeah, if we're picking like what we would call the game of the year, I'm still, even at the time, gonna try and pick something that I think is so important.
Yeah, exactly. And while I agree this is a very influential game, I still can't deny that this is one heck of a fun game to play.
It is.
Warts and all today.
It is, yes.
That's just me personally. What about you? What is your favorite game this year? Because I think you had to change it once we rearranged things.
I did. Originally, and I will tell you, my runner-up was actually this game. And it was close, because I really love Mario Kart 64 as well. I love so many games on this list. However, to give it to one... It did have to change because of this, because I am just a sucker for Pokemon Gen 1. And I'm sorry about that. Nobody likes to hear that, but I played that so much as a kid that I can go back and just enjoy this just so much. It makes me so happy. It's my happy place game.
Yeah,
unfortunately, it just happens to be one that like people hate hearing that it's someone's happy place game, but like that game is just so nice just for what it is.
The whole one, he's a Gen 1 he doesn't like all the other generations.
No, if anything, I would never tell you that Pokemon Gen 1's the best generation. However, of the games that came out this year, that is the one I will fire up in a heartbeat. I have been playing that game so much, and for no reason. I will turn that game on and be like, I just love being here. Yeah. I love the world. I love the characters. Even though there really is, like, no story. It's just about playing a game. And it's like an RPG that, like, there really can have, like, a party of however many you feel like. And they can be as strong as you want. They all can do whatever you want.
But see, that's why I like that as an RPG. Because it allows you to create your own trainer journey.
Yes.
There isn't a predetermined thing.
Yeah,
yes.
Even though in canon, like in the sequel, Gold and Silver, you will challenge Trainer Red, or rather you can.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it's you.
Exactly.
Trainer Red is you. In later games, they tried to make the trainers characters who, like, couldn't speak. But it just made the game really awkward. It's almost like we lost something when... like, you're not respecting us to say, like, we are the character.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I understand trying to make something a little bit more immersive or something a little bit more endearing. But again, don't tell me just leave this all to the adults like Pokemon Sword and Shield did.
Oh my God.
I want to be the kid to be able to go in and solve problems. I don't care how Saturday morning cartoon it is. That's what Pokemon is to me.
Yeah,
to be able to make my own journey.
And it was so hands-off.
Yes.
That initial game, like, there's very few people that will, like, literally stand in your way and stop you. Like, the kid in the beginning, like, hey, you should probably, here, do you know where the gym is? This is a gym, let me show you. And he takes you back to the gym and says, you should probably do this.
Yep.
And then, like, anyone with a brain is gonna be like, oh, cool, I want to try this new thing. Why would I care about the other new thing that the kid's standing in front of? That's just a walkway. And then just when you beat the gym, you realize, oh, I can go this way, and then the game opens up, and it just becomes enormous, and there's so much you can do with it. And it's all about exploring and making your own adventure out of it. And that's what I wish Pokemon would keep doing.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully with Scarlet and Violet, they might do that, but who knows? I don't trust
them either, because I put my faith back in them for Legends Arceus, and I was let down.
That's a shame.
The game is...
Another
I reviewed
episode.
it. I reviewed it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be in another episode where I could talk about the entire thing, but yeah, that's that. But still, yeah, this was an enormous year.
Yeah, so buckle up, sit down, because it's only going to get crazier from here.
Yeah, it will, because I really think a lot of these games deserve to be spoken about in their own episode, and eventually we may.
Yeah.
As of right now, we're trying to limit episodes that we do that to games that are effectively ones that I reviewed, that at least cuts it down to about 100, and even that feels like it's nothing.
Right. Well, because there's so many.
There's so many games. There's so many good games. And just because, like, a lot of these that we're talking about might have even come out before you were born, don't pass them up. Give them a shot if you have the ability to. Or at least, if you're not going to, appreciate what they did and recognize how it affects games that you like. And I hope that that changes the way that you go back and think about them and the ones that you are currently playing today.
Yep.
That's why we're doing this. Anyway, but we were just sitting around talking about nothing for 2 hours. I'm sorry.
Are you? Wait, really? 2 hours?
I am dead serious, Zach. It's fine. Just smile at the camera and wave. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoyed the show, you can help us by keeping it alive and supporting us on Patreon with links in the show notes in this video's description. Don't fall asleep like Mario. This is important. For those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more. And be sure to let us know what you thought of the show. What other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future, like, I don't know, 1997. Special thanks to our amazing Patreon members as well. Thank you guys. We'll see ya.
I'm never sleeping again. Same joke, different video.
Ha ha ha, still funny.
Shut up.